All right. First video up is from a minister, Yada Awakening.
Is
Let's
he a
talk.
minister?
I think that's one of his roles.
Mm,
It's a biochemist and pharmacist on his profile.
mm.
Let's talk about what he says about how he treats his wife.
Pampering my woman is a requirement. 150,000 per child when she gives birth, 150,000 every year after that until the child's 18. Her hair done once a week, nails done once a week, makeup done whenever she wants to, shopping sprees around the world, anywhere she wants to shop at and buy whatever she wants. Her finances is not maintained. She's not allowed to pay for any bills, open any doors, or take out any trash. I love bathing her. I love bringing her breakfast in bed. She's my woman. I love to see her soft. She is my woman. I brought her into my life so I can elevate her, love on her, and cherish her. And I know you can't outlove a good woman. So I don't get kudos for pampering my woman. I'm supposed to do that. And when she pours back onto me, it only comes from God. I can't purchase that. So when I love a good woman and she's standing next to me, she's elevating me. My woman is my attire. I don't need jewelry. She's my crown. She's my gems. She's everything. I'm supposed to pamper my woman. I don't get kudos for that. That's my woman. I took her from her father.
All right. So, what do you think?
Um, I can appreciate that sentiment of wanting to give in that kind of way to a woman. You know what I mean? I think any man who has seen what making his woman feel supported, loved, all of those things, um, if you've seen the result of that, you would want to, copy and paste and do everything you can to keep that behavior coming. But I do feel like it's a little. I feel like the concept of spoiling and pampering has some nuance to it, and it needs a lot more perspective before it's just fully executed like that. Because I think it can create um, just a really bad power dynamic. I think it can. It's interesting. I actually let a friend of mine hear that. And she was like, yo, this could be a confidence killer for a woman because a lot of women don't necessarily want to be spoiled or treated like a child. Like they feel like that's kind of childlike behavior. Um, but I don't know. I feel like I don't want to say set the bar too high, especially if you have somebody who is used to getting that 150 or 250 or whatever he's giving her. But I don't know too many people who are able to do it at that level. But I think that, like I said, I think that concept of spoiling and pampering just needs a little more perspective because it could be very nuanced.
Yeah, I actually thought it was powerful. It was great for me to see a man who was willing to go to a what you call peak standard of caring for his family. It wasn't just the fact of what he's doing. He said 250 a year plus 150 every kid for each kid every year till the kid is 18. So he's also investing in her for investing in him and creating a family. So that's money that's hers that she gets to keep, and that's locked in. So assuming everything continues to go well, they continue to thrive together. Two or three kids, 150K a year, each going to 18. That's a lot of money, and that's just hers. Thought that was a beautiful standard, especially because I've become so familiar with what women go through with their bodies, psychologically and physically, to give birth. And he's just thinking of it as an investment. That's one part. Uh, the other part that I thought was really good was the language he used and the philosophy of really going out of his way to support her and make sure she's good and seeing himself as, you could say, the ultimate provider, not not taking a stance of, well, you got to do something around here, but saying like, nah, you do enough. You bring your peak feminine energy to me, and that energy means everything to me. It is the source of me moving ahead. It's the source of me being elevated and the family elevated. It's the source of our family's sense or connection to prosperity and success. That was very powerful. What I would encourage any man who wants to and follow in those footsteps may not be at that level. I don't know what he does for a living. I don't know what he does for work. But any man who's at that level, I would say it's aspirational. It's equivalent to walking to the gym and saying, yo, I want to bench press 400 pounds, but you've never really seriously lifted weights before. Well, going and putting the plates on the barbell and then going to lift, you're going to injure yourself. On top of humiliate yourself if you're in a public gym. What you have to do is work up to it. So you follow this kind of simple understanding. Start where you can and then expand. Start where you can with serving your woman, providing for her, and then continue to build upon that till you get to the level you and her agree to get to. So I'm going to get back to the agreement point in a minute. So that may just be you pay for her nails and hair. That just may be, yo, you know what, nails, hair, and I'm taking care of the garbage and I'm making sure I'm cooking X amount of days a week and contributing at this level. You know, that may be nails, hair, garbage, domestic activities. And I'm going to be the leader on thinking through our finances and planning for retirement. Whatever it may be, start there, become a maven or a master at it, and then continue to build and contribute it to your wife out of your generosity and sense of who you are. Because the key thing to what he's talking about, even though it was unmentioned, is even if you believe or perceive your woman, your partner, your spouse is not giving you her best, you've committed to this path. So that means you have to remain, consistent and constant. Obviously, we get into cases of abuse and other things, and that should be confronted. But in general, you're going to want to continue to do this to find where you both can arrive at, where you're feeling that peak femininity or you're feeling that connection you believe is there between you and your wife at that level of provision, which brings me back to the agreement point. You can do all these things, but you have to have a conversation with your spouse, your partner, your woman, if this is what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is perfectly okay. I think this is perfectly fine. I believe the minister makes a lot of sense. I think this is great. And I hope a lot of men get a whiff of it and find where it works for them. But it's important to get agreement and consent. Why do I talk about agreement and consent? Because some women actually are called to leave the home and work. Some women have a mission in them. Some women have a business inside of them. Some women have a nonprofit inside of them. Some women have a strong profit edge inside of them, meaning they're called to start a business and see profit. So maybe, your support isn't $250 a year plus $150 every year for every kid that you produced until that child is 18. It may be positioning yourself to support her career. Scott Galloway, a big favorite of mine here on the podcast, he talks about you as a man have to say the financial responsibility of my home is for me, right? I bear the burden of the financial responsibility of the home. And for some men, that's going to look like I need to support her with her business, and because she's the one crushing it at work. And what do you do in order to support that? So that's just an important point that I believe needs to be made.
The agreement piece.
Yeah, the agreement
Yeah,
piece, the
absolutely.
conversation piece. Don't come in here, some Don Juan and just, you're going to give all the right words and use, this neurolinguistic programming language to somehow seduce her into this role. No, come at her. She's a human being like you are. You wouldn't want her just to, assume, even if you're into sports, for example, that this is the way you want to consume your sports, or you want a conversation, you want understanding of what your needs are. Because maybe during football season, you like to have things a certain way. During basketball season, you like to have things a certain way. Maybe there's a certain, package you want to order from cable, and she, you want her to be able to cater to that or understand that. So if she's doing things for you, she can meet your needs. That's just what's important. And that comes to communication and conversation. Don't forget that. Don't forget that and need for agreement and consent. It's critical.
Yeah, that's the reason why I said I could appreciate the sentiment of wanting to create that kind of environment for a woman, but the execution, what that looks like to your point, it needs to be talked about and agreed upon, because I don't think anybody's built to live a soft life. You know what I mean? You look at Proverbs 31, that woman is in the marketplace. It takes patience to deal with people in the marketplace. There's nothing about life that's supposed to be soft. So I'm firmly against what I'm hearing is like this soft girl era. Even in some of the comments, it was like people was talking about this is how a real man does it, makes his woman, lets her enjoy her soft girl era. Like, nah, life is not supposed to be soft. Now, it's not supposed to be tumultuous and hard, but there are going to be some challenges. There are going to be some things that require you to dig deep. There are going to be some things that pull on, like I said, patience, that pull on all different types of things in your emotional bank. So I don't know that this soft girl life or soft life for anybody is something that the gesture of being supportive and loving and kind is supposed to set up.
Yeah, I what I liked about him is that he's talking about feminine energy and allowing the space and the place for your woman, your wife, in his context, to bring her best creative self to the home. I've always said this to people, even about the workplace. People have to bring their best creative self to the workplace. How do you do that? Well, number one, psychological safety. Same thing in a relationship. How do you promote psychological safety? How do you promote an environment where someone feels inspired, rested? Rested? I mean, people just miss out on that when they talk about the importance of connection. You want sex all the time? Someone needs to be rested for that. And so what I think he's doing is you're talking about peak femininity. You're talking about bringing her deepest creative feminine energy out to you. How do you do that? Well, she needs to be taken care of. And I just think that's a concept that continues to surface. And I think it needs to continue to surface in order for us to make sense of it moving forward. Jay Campbell, fitness enthusiast, talks about the problems with young men in this country, ages 20 to 30, and their lack of desire to have sex. We had a very successful TikTok video where Jay and I discussed about young men who don't want to work, don't cook or clean, don't contribute, but they love to play video games and space out, but have the time from their woman whenever they want it or need it. I think this just continues to hammer home the point that we are in crisis with young men. On one hand. On the other hand, young men have chosen to walk away from bonding and growing with women. And I think that choice is fine. So let's talk about both parts about that. Where I think it's fine. People are allowed to choose whatever they want to choose. You're not hurting anyone. You're not murdering anyone. You're not kidnapping anyone. You're not human trafficking. You're not doing any of the evil or horrible acts that we lock people up for. No problem. You're in your own world. You're in your own bubble. Not a problem. Where it's a crisis is, number one, from a population socio-political standpoint, having having people who couple and get married and have children helps to keep the nation strong. In addition to that, we just know that when we have men who are having sex consistently, that helps to deal with men's anger, and we see rates of misogyny actually go down. And so men are not bonding with women, and they're not connecting with women because they rather play video games and be in their own world. We have men who are less and less engaged in creating families, in being, I would say, positive contributors to communities and community development. And then a third thing Jay Campbell brings up the fact is a lot of them don't even know how to have sex because they don't even know what it feels like. They're just watching porn and living through the fantasy lens that they've created with whatever kind of genre or porn, category of porn that they're watching this week, because we know that changes due to tolerant addiction.
BBW?
BBWs, everything. You never know what someone's obviously struggling with when, well, you never know what some of these men are truly thinking because I don't think we're getting enough conversation from these men. We are getting the surveys, but I don't see in the podcast sphere enough conversations with these men. But from what we're getting from the data and the surveys, they're just like, nah, I'm not interested. I can just jerk off and I can just spend time with this, with this video game, with this Legend of Zelda. And that's all I need. I don't need a woman. I don't need to be involved in her emotional life or exploring the depths or the richness of that. I don't need it. Or the horrors and the trauma that comes along with that.
Who does that sound like? We've heard women talk about like this for a long time. I don't need a man. We don't need men anymore. I think dudes are kind of experiencing the same thing. What he's talking about, like he said, they are saying, why would I go on this emotional roller coaster? Why would I jump through these hoops? Why do I have to do a dog and pony show just to know what it's like to experience this kind of physical bonding and pleasure. Like now, I don't. I think that I actually do think it. I don't want to say it's wrong, but I think it is harmful. Like you said, the word crisis is a
Yeah,
very
crisis.
apt
Yeah.
word
Hmm.
because obviously when we talk about the concept of the decrease in physical intimacy, that includes a man and a woman, at least from the perspective we're talking about it. So if men are withdrawing, that's an issue. If women are withdrawing, that's an issue. But obviously, we focusing on the men from this clip, and I think you know, being out here in the field, I can see why a lot of dudes would choose that. At the end of the day, I still think a woman's loving is always going to be better than some video games. It's-
Let me tell you something right now.
there's nothing that 2K or Madden or Call of Duty or
Legend of
Legend
Zelda
is
or
like
Mass Effect.
there's nothing that Fortnite can do for me that means more than sharing in that intimate experience with a woman. Like,
Well,
go ahead.
once you get a woman and you're able to bond with her and create an environment of safety, Tavia said you take care of her heart. She gives you such an overflow of love and femininity. That feminine energy, when it's peaking and full of trust, there's nothing like it. There's no game I've ever played.
Son, I beat the Legend of Zelda. Gold cartridge, silver cartridge, all of them. And it's never felt as great. I have never felt as good as when like cuddling, laying with a woman maybe after sex, after an orgasm, or even if the sex wasn't a part of it, just being in a woman's embrace, having it playing your hair, the scent, the softness.
The words she speaks to you.
Son, there's nothing like it.
The words she speaks to
There's
you.
nothing like it.
I don't know how cats are just.
Listen, bro. God created a woman for a man, not video games for a man. I don't mean to put on my religious hat, but like, listen, so there's a reason why the creation stories are about bringing a man and a woman together. Technology was way down the line. We got to experience and enjoy this way down the line, but men have been enjoying the presence and company and intimacy of a woman for millennia for a reason.
And the struggles of being with a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what he mentioned, Jay Campbell, that most of these young men don't want to deal with the emotional struggles of bonding with a woman because it comes with struggles. The person that you pick or the person that picks you or you guys pick each other may have been through some trauma, may have an anxiety issue, may have challenges they're going through.
Right.
If they don't have challenges they're going through, they will be going through challenges.
Yes. And you're going to have to sift through some weeds.
And you're going to have to sift through some weeds just like they're going to sift through yours. But together, one hand washes the face. Well, sorry, one hand washes another and both hands wash the face. There's a beauty and a joy to a woman and a man being coupled. And when, again, she's giving you that peak feminine energy, you will feel like there's nothing like it. We've said on the podcast before, we haven't made $1 million yet. Emphasize yet. But when you have participated in a woman's orgasm and in a connection with a woman, there is literally no feeling on this planet that is like that to me.
Praise him.
Just take a moment. The praise break.
I'll say, where you want me to send this offering to?
Exactly.
You're preaching right now. So.
Exactly. If you want to give to this ministry, you can give to P.O. Box 212-212.
But no, so that's actually, when you think about it, it really is a crisis because, obviously, I personally believe that part of a man's DNA and makeup is conquest and conquering and getting through challenges. And the fact that so many are withdrawing from that process and are running away from the struggles and the challenges of connecting and dealing with a woman is kind of scary.
They'd rather be consumers than producers.
Meaning they're not producing any offspring.
Well, that.
or really just producing any love, producing any intimacy. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
They'd rather be consumers, and we have done a great job at creating a consumer-based society.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I talked to you before. The economist Tyler Carwan says that he doesn't really hear anyone talking about innovation anymore. That the most innovative years, I believe, for America, he feels 1810 to 1968, But when you talk about people about what are you going to do new or exciting, talking about moving into a low income community, gentrifying it, and creating restaurants and coffee shops. And it seems like we've fallen into this cycle of just leisure, consumption, leisure. I have some leisure.
Mm-hmm.
I consume some more. Now I feel calm and I feel, I have more leisure. I consume some more leisure. So just either enjoyment or consumption or enjoyment. There is no work. There is no reflecting. There's no thinking. There's no thoughtfulness. There's no ideating. There's no struggle. Nothing in that cycle gives you products at the end of the day. Nothing in that cycle produces opportunities, bonds, community, hope, new beginnings. None of it. It's just the same old cycle.
Yeah. And it's so crazy. Dudes from the red pill community would look down at those dudes. You know what I mean? Like, yo, if all you doing is taking your time to play video games and jerk off the porn, like you're not skilling up. You're not
Yeah.
making yourself a viable bachelor for a woman to want to come in and be a part of your life and build and grow and connect with you. Like,
And
yeah,
I think,
it's
go ahead.
I was just gonna say to your point, like that's why that word crisis is so apt for
Yeah.
that situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Miss Pat.
Miss Pat does it once again.
Mm-hmm.
Honest, brutal,
Raw.
and straight to the point. Let's get right into it.
Problem with wrong with America with women that no longer build the man. First of all, when you get a man, you getting him from his mama or you getting him from the last. So you got to take that man and you got to shape that man in what you want him to be. Time he ain't got no money. I got to get up out of here. Let me say this to y'all. I spent 31 years with this when he didn't have the best job. He went to General Motors, spent 22 years building the car some of y'all driving today. When I got the Miss Pat show, I looked at him and said, you can retire. You know why? Because he took, when my rent was $69 on Section 8, that paid my rent. Do you hear me?
I hear you.
Relationships ain't like that anymore. Y'all don't want to invest in a relationship.
And you respect him for that.
Yeah, you want to suck and say we together, and when he ain't got no money, you want to go.
Yeah. First of all, let me just say I love that she always speaks from the heart, and is super genuine and authentic. Like it makes a lot of what she says very palatable. But yeah, man, go ahead. What'd you think about this one?
Miss Pat is expressing an idea that's about fostering partnerships. And the art of creating partnerships is lost in our current dating, mating, and marrying scene. Many of us are starting from the space of you need to have, you need to have, you need to have, you need to have. And the moment that person can't produce or they don't have, you drop them. Similar to once your CD player back in the day broke, you went into Circuit City and got a new one. The moment your device doesn't work, your Lenovo breaks down, you call on the people in the Microsoft products division. You're treating people at times like commodities. One of the greatest things I heard recently this summer was my dad saying about my mom when they first got married. My grandfather got sick and he was going down to go visit him and leaving on weekends. And obviously that was a financial investment and she supported him. So when my mom's mom got sick, he never thought twice. And the investment from my grandfather was so much less because he had lung cancer, so he died relatively quickly, than what my dad had to give to my mom for her mom, because that was 8 years of just every other weekend providing, driving, going out to where she was, taking care of her. But in his mind, he wasn't looking for tit for tat. All right, you gave me 2 years, I'm giving you 2 years. He thought, he said to me, the fact that you supported me. So once you supported me, all bets are off. I'm going straight for you. And my mom ended up telling me, and this is funny, this was within a 2-day mark, they weren't around each other when they told me how much my dad will go places with her, even though he doesn't want to go. And the best thing is he'll show up as if he wanted to go. So he's not getting in the car talking about, I didn't want to go and you always got something to do and you got somewhere to be, talking about you're going to go, but you're going to make it difficult and drag your feet every step of the way. No, he shows up as if he wanted to go. What did Mike Tyson say discipline is? Doing something you don't want to do as if you love it. My dad didn't want to go to any of these spaces or places with my mom, but he did it as though if he wanted to do it because he wanted her to feel good about it. Partnership.
Being
And
a
that's what this
cheerful
pad is
giver.
getting at. Partnership. Are you gonna have a partnership as opposed to a demand ship? Give me, it's mine, I want. She said, my man paid my $69 a month rent. So because you took care of me, I retired you. Don't you know that whatever she's paying now, probably for rent, for housing, is a lot more than $69 a month? But because he showed up and was faithful and consistent, that's all she needed to know. Because if you add up them 22 years of living in public assistance, $69 a month still probably don't compare in comparison to what she's paying just alone in mortgage,
Right.
just alone in car fees, just alone in groceries. But that don't matter to me. It ain't no tit for tat. You showed up for me, so I'm showing up for you.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful thing. Like you said, it's one hand washing the other and both washing the face.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually one of the dopest things to see that dynamic. Like I've seen it before where a woman is held down to man, and then when he get his, he takes care of her. But this is one of the first stories I've ever heard of, or at least just in recent times, of a man holding down a woman and her getting like a crazy come up, and then being like, "Yo, I'm gonna take care of you." And I don't know, bro. I love to see it. I
Yeah.
love to see things happen in an unorthodox way. And I think that what you talked about, that partnership, seeing it play out like that is just a beautiful thing. I mean, I wish more people had the experience of knowing what it's like to be supported and just held down. Even if it's not to the level of being able to pay somebody's rent at whatever price point it is, but coming with the heart, like you said, to serve. Before I'm thinking about what I'm going to get out of this, before I'm thinking about what I'm owed, before I'm thinking about what my needs are that I want met, how am I showing up with this heart and this mindset to serve? How
Yeah.
am I motivating this person to even want to support me?
Yeah.
How am I motivating this person to even want to meet my needs? Like you said, I think a lot of people come into relationships thinking about what they can get out of it. And as my former mother-in-law used to say, if you get into a relationship for what you can get out of it, you need to get out of it.
Yeah. Perfect words. What I thought was cool too was obviously she was talking to women. I can't comment on that. I'm not a woman. But our argument is that women nowadays don't want to think about things in terms of partnership and building up a man. She's like, you getting him from his mama, so you gotta mold him under your,
Under
your
your
level.
tutelage,
Yeah,
under
yeah,
your
yeah.
care.
I would say under your regime, but I don't like to use that word.
But real facts though.
Yeah, and you have to build with someone. And I'll say this from the man side because I can't talk about the woman's side. You as a man have to be faithful to what you said you were going to do. That man paid that rent. Just do what you said you were going to do. Be faithful to what you committed to. And that then starts to create an environment of trust, psychological safety, and care where she starts to feel, all right, and when I get put on, when my number comes in, when my ship comes in, my train comes in, yo, homie, you're going to be good because you're going
I
to be all
got
right.
us.
Yeah.
You
I
had
got us.
me, but now I got us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super
Because
dope.
she had to be out late nights, and I think she has a grandchild, that she got children. She had a kid at 16. I mean, she has an incredible story. So she made it happen. She made it happen for him. She made it happen for them.
Right. That 22 years he was working at GM, and yeah, man, he held it down, and then he got his call to glory.
Yeah, to full enjoyment. Look at
Yeah.
Tabitha Brown.
I was just about son. You read my mind. I was just about to say that was another
Said she
instance.
started filming during the pandemic, just propping up her little, camera and talking and cooking. And her husband worked for the LAPD. Turned around and said, "Yo, you done? You done? You good? You good? I'm retiring you. You good?
That's
We
gotta
off
feel
this now."
great. That's gotta feel great.
Yeah.
Stephen A.
Well,
Smith said
especially as
he had the same kind of story, not with somebody he was seeing, but with his mom. He was just like, he was like, he remembers getting I guess when he first got his like big contract, going down to his mom's job and being like, "Yo, let's we out of here. Just tell him this your last day." Oh, I think he actually told her boss like, "Yo, this is her last day. I'm just letting you know she's not coming back. Yo, we out of here. You're retired. You don't need to do this no more. I got you." And I mean, like we're talking about Tabitha Brown, we're talking about Stephen A. Smith, Miss Pat. All of these people put time in, consistency, effort, not only into their craft but their relationships. And as we have said numerous times in our own path, the consistency is what brings the breakthrough.
Yeah.
So it's like if you can just continue putting one foot in front of the other, eventually you'll get to where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
Just stay consistent on the path.
And the moral of this story is put one foot in front of the other and be consistent. You'll get there together. So, I mean, I hope that people start to realize you can build with someone. We're not saying, and I'm sure Miss Pat is not saying, do it blindly. Do it at a point where you just met a person. Now 3 months later, you helping them pay off their rent, and you funding their new demo tape. Or she got a shoe business idea. Now you putting money into the shoe business and the nail salon. What we're saying is, as people reveal themselves to be trustworthy, as people reveal themselves to be dependable, as people reveal themselves to be strong and interested in helping and serving with you and to you and for you, how are you going to invest back in them? If she comes to you with that business plan, if he comes to you with that business idea, are you going to take the leap with them? Now, it doesn't mean you may take crazy leaps and you just over leverage yourself. But how do you take the time to say, this person's worth it, as opposed to, you ain't got, you don't have, you're not enough, I don't think so, you don't check these boxes, you don't make me, you don't help me, you don't, and again, if someone's not serving or helping, that's different. But we have so much negativity around check boxes, men and women. I've seen them on both sides. That becomes problematic to finding partnerships that, if you invest in them on the front end, they're going to yield dividends in the long run. And I hope people can see that, because thanks to Miss Pat and her husband, yielding dividends.
Yeah, but like she said, it will take a time investment, and yeah, it will take a time investment.
Yeah, because we know there'd be some individuals, men, since we're talking about a men, and that's why I'm talking about this, who would have saw $69 a month as robbery. I ain't paying for no woman's. I ain't doing that.
You think so? I feel like dudes would be like, just that's it? Man,
some
listen.
dudes were. I'm just saying there are some dudes who would say that, and maybe that's
no
what she's
doubt.
thinking. You could have easily said, "I'm not paying that."
Yeah, no doubt.
When I was vulnerable and didn't have, when I was vulnerable and needed, you could have turned around and said, "Yo, man, check this out. If you ain't X Y Z, you don't even look at me." Some people see that as a power trip. Now, obviously, I think there's some men who run at that right now, because $69 is affordable for a lot of men. Right now, the median salary is 50, 60K. That's livable. So shoot, I put down twice on that. They would love to have a situation where they can step into a woman's life and change her life for $69. There's a lot of men who would love to. A lot of men who have the heart for that. They just can't. And for some men, when they can't perform, not because they're not capable, but because the limitations of where they're at this point are preventing them from really peaking and showing their full breadth of their vision. They shut down.
Yeah.
And I think some of that stems from childhood, and you're not supposed to cry, and you're not supposed to be weak, and you want to show your woman you're dependable and that you can do for her and that you want to do for her and you want to bring your best creative self to her. There's a lot of men who have a heart for that. There's a lot of men who want to bring their best creative self to their woman. And I'm talking about men who are also going to be, because this is often brought up, and they want to be loyal. And they have no problem working on themselves, so they're not clicking other women's images and liking on Instagram and making sure they ain't talking to your sorority sister. There's men out there like that. There are, who know how to keep their head straight forward and not a swivel, even after church service, because you see this one over here with the fat butt, and this one has there's dudes who want to do all that and still be loyal to you. They exist. I know sometimes they're hard to come by, and I know they're hard to find, but they exist. They want to do right by you. They want to do right by the woman they're with.
And on that note,